What's up, everybody? I'm Phillip. I'm an alcoholic. All right, man. Did you guys go to that speaker meeting earlier? Wow. That was a high level of energy. I'm not going to match that. Okay, I'm going to let you know right now. This is like the after hours club. We're at Faded. We're all coming. We're just chilling. So that's what the vibe's going to be here tonight. Okay. I've been sober since January 15th, 2005. And, I've got a sponsor. He's fantastic. His name's Barkley. You guys just met him. And I also have a home group. I share the Page 112 group with, do I have to do it? I have to. 112. Yeah, it's a thing we do. It's not really. And here's the thing. I love drinking. Right? I mean, that's the truth, right? I absolutely love drinking. I loved everything about it, and I did it for as long as I absolutely could until it almost killed me, right? I mean, that's the deal. That's why I'm here. And I think I expected to come to AA and have people tell me, like, oh, alcohol's the devil, or, it's this or it's that. And like, no, man, it was my everything for so long. It really was my primary coping mechanism. It was there through the good times, the bad times, when it's party time, whatever time, I was going to drink, okay? So that's my relationship with alcohol, right? Just want to throw that out there on the front end. I am originally from Chicago, Illinois. Well, hey, all right, yeah, right. But I moved down here when I was 5, so so it's tough to rep Chi-Town like I want to. Now that I'm a Nashville native. Now, bold statement. My wife was actually born here, and so she holds that over my head that I'm not actually a Nashville native, but that's okay. And so, moved down here when I was 5 years old and would make trips back and forth with my family. And I clearly remember going back up to Chicago and all my friends that I grew up with making fun of me because I'd picked up a very strong Southern accent, as we're known to do in formative years, right? That was the deal. And they would, and all my best friends, I thought, in life, all of a sudden I was the odd man out, and that was one of my first experiences of feeling like that guy, the odd man out of the room, right? All of a sudden I don't fit in with my friends. And that happened every time I went to Chicago. And it felt horrible. And one special 4th of July weekend, typically this is on 4th of July weekend. We bumped it back a week. But one special barbecue, I looked around to see what everybody else was doing, and all the adults were laughing and having a great time. And they were drinking. They all had red Solo cups, and I wanted what was inside those cups because it seemed to make everything okay for them, right? And so my first, getting just rockin' drunk was pretty hardcore. I don't mind to brag. It was strawberry margarita, and and I was rocketed into the 4th dimension, man. It took my svelte 12-year-old self just one tall glass of strawberry margarita, and all of a sudden I was feeling it, man. And and life had taken on new meaning, and all of a sudden, classic rubber and glue situation. Didn't matter what my friends said. I was bouncing it right back at them. Just didn't matter. I was finally the person that I thought I was supposed to be. Right? That's what alcohol did for me. It made me feel like I fit in. Made me feel like I was the center of the party. Right? And that's what it is. I don't have, a ton of trauma or baggage in my life, right? I drink because I like the effect produced by alcohol, and the book is very clear that's the requirement, So I've got a lot of friends, family members, sponsees, that deal with all kinds of stuff. And I think for those of us that are genetically predisposed, right, I just need the booze, period. And once I have that realization of what it does for people like us, man, I want to drink through the good times, drink through the bad times. Again, I just always want to be drunk, right? So, by 12 years old, I knew I loved drinking, and I knew that I wanted to drink as much as I possibly could, all the time, if possible, right? But at 12, that's tough to do. And so I was the kid at my friends' houses whose parents loved them. Like, oh, that's the good kid. I was like, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. And then as soon as their parents were asleep, I was like, where's the liquor cabinet? I was like, oh, where's the booze? It gets real serious. Like, we're getting messed up, right? Like, we're gonna get crunk tonight. And my friends weren't ready to drink like that, and that's okay. I would drink past them like I would many other friends in years to come, right? We just drink past the people that can't hang with us. And we can't differentiate the true from the false. And after a while, our alcoholic life seems like our only normal one, right? That's why I love the book, Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And that's, something. The truth is that, like, if you stick around here this weekend, you'll hear some great meetings, some great talks, great speakers sharing our experience, with the work, with the book and the stuff. But, like, the real deal is in the book, right? I may say something that you think is BS, and that's cool. It doesn't matter. I'm not Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm just one drunk that found a solution through the program of AA. But if you want to know the deal and you want freedom from alcohol, it's in the book, right? That's the deal. So please, if that's the only takeaway from tonight, it's like, get a sponsor, work the steps, have the experience that is promised as a result, right? Boom. That's that blurb. That's that takeaway. Everything else I say doesn't really matter, but it's kind of, it's my experience with it, right? So I was 12, drinking from 12 to 15. At 15, something very magical happened in my life. My friend went up to Wisconsin and found a fake ID, as my wife and Barclay have heard many times. And and so he brought this ID down of a man. It was a grown man's ID. He was like 25 or 29, and I cut that picture out and put my little 15-year-old face in there, like, and I had my first ID at 15 years old. And I grew up in East Nashville, right? Right now, the East Side is the place to be, but in the 80s and 90s, it was not the place to be. All right, if anybody was running around back there, they know what I'm saying. And there are still parts of where I grew up that, like, we don't really, you steer clear there if you can. But the cool part about growing up in East Nashville is that Weiss Liquors, right there on Gallatin Road, had very low standards for their ID checking policy. They were like, what you got? There's a face on there, you're good, And I grew up in the 90s and grew up, drinking and listening to hip-hop and thinking I was a badass. And so, grow up drinking in Mad Dog 2020 with my friends, like everybody does, right? So hood. And so I had that ID, I had the access to alcohol, and I was finally at the place that I always wanted to be, which was the center of the party. If you wanted to drink in my group of friends, you had to come to me. And I don't know that it was a power trip thing, it's just that I wanted people to drink with all the time, and I didn't hate the fact that, like, I'm the hookup, It kind of, that role fits us well, because we're there, we're wheeling and dealing, and of course, everybody's invited to the giant party, And I drank my way through high school, and I had some friends that had really negative high school experiences, for whatever reason. I think that's very common, especially with drunks. We feel isolated, we don't feel a part of in high school. But again, because I was doing what I wanted to do, I was right there in the middle of that party in high school, and so I had a blast. And I kept my grades up. Right? For me, that was the great mirage, the great smoke screen. If I could just keep my grades up, push forward, nobody would have any reason to suspect that there was a serious problem under there. And the problem was that I was drinking every weekend in high school, and then by senior year, drinking pretty much daily, and then doing a lot of outside issues every chance I could get. So I was going to school baked pretty much every day, and that was fine by me. In addition to drinking and being the hookup on that front, I also like to help my friends with some other items, some illicit substances. So I opened up a small business out of the trunk of my car in high school, as many of us do that have that entrepreneurial spirit, right? We want to help people. We're on the grind, as they say these days. And again, man, they just put me in the middle of the party. That's where I wanted to be. You don't think like, oh, I'm a drug dealer. It's like, no, man. It's like, hey, I'm helping my friends. I'm doing God's work, right? And again, at the middle of the party, which is where we want to be. And high school again was a blast, and I got a scholarship to go to college, and it was up in Chicago. And I graduated high school, just kind of skated through there that last year, just on fumes. I was able to glide in off my previous success when I still gave a crap, all the way into graduation. And I was almost there. I almost made it to college. And then that summer, just before college, I got busted. I was working at a photo developing place right over here by Opryland Hotel called Quick Picks. It was the king of all tourist traps, you know. I mean, we gouged people's, you know. And dude, and think about this. I mean, this was a time when you had to take your little roll of film or your disposable camera to somebody, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, you want to see anything on here? It's gonna be $40." And that was my job, was to basically, you know, take advantage of tourists, and it was always $40. I mean, it was ridiculous and overpriced. But I digress. In the shop, we also had a whole touristy Jack Daniels section. So I would have friends come in and we'd try out all the shot glasses, and that was great. And so my work kind of became the party spot, you know, which I loved because, again, middle of the party. And so I'd have friends come by. We would bake out in the dark room and drink, you know, out of every shot glass, you know. It was really like stepping in and, you know, pick your dream, whatever shot glass you want. You want Tennessee, you want Nashville, you want brown bears, black bears. You know, we got all the Tennessee tchotchkes, and man, and we kicked it. They let me close the store down by myself, and all went well for a time. And then one day, my friend came over. He had his little brother with him for some reason. And we let his little brother wander around the store while we went into the dark room to take care of business. And while we were back there, the security guard drove by, saw that there was a child wandering around by himself inside the store, and thought, that's strange. You know, where's that child's adult, probably. And so we heard a knock on the door, heard a banging, and we were like, what is that? I don't know. I don't think your brother's that strong. and you know, you hear the knock, and it's like, shh, everybody be quiet, you know? Well, it's like Jurassic Park. If you don't move, they can't see you, and they can't hear you. And the cop's like, we know you're in there. And we're like, oh, okay, huh. And we open the door, and the smoke billows out, and we're busted, right? We're absolutely caught dead to rights with everything out in the open. We're 18, you know, we're underage, and we got a child walking around the store. And so I did what I would do many times to come, right? Which is I took this very real consequence, this thing that was happening to me. I got busted. I was losing my job. And I rationalized. I came up with the reason why it just didn't matter. You know, this doesn't matter to me. This was a stupid job. I didn't like this job anyway. I don't need this job. I'm too good for this job. You know, our head gets to spinning. And before you know it, this thing that should be a giant red flag in our lives, we have rationalized away into something that just doesn't even matter, you know? And that was the first time I remember doing that. And the cops let me go. They let my parents come pick me up, but I remember they told my parents, if he's doing this on the job, that's a major warning sign. He probably needs to do, you know, some treatment. And we started talking about treatment options. And we went. I remember this. We went down to Cumberland to do like an inpatient assessment, and we were talking, and we just all pumped the brakes like, this sounds crazy, you know, I'm not going to just come live here for a whole month, you know, I got college to get to, I got life to live, and I was able to talk my parents out of that into a more accommodating outpatient situation for adolescents. And so that's what I did. I did like a 30-day outpatient thing, still drinking and smoking every day, didn't really care, didn't have to pass the tests, still cheated the tests, got caught cheating the tests, but didn't care. And I clearly remember them saying, you know, if you have little control over the amount you take, you might be alcoholic. If when drinking you can't stop, you might be an alcoholic. These little seeds were being planted. And by the end of that treatment, I was able to take everything that I'd heard and compile it all into one big thought, which is, I'm probably an alcoholic. You know, that was me at 18. I think a lot of us know young, right? And that's not even super young, but that's pretty young. And I knew, I'm probably an alcoholic. I drink the way they say that alcoholics drink. I don't care. I'm going to college. You know? And that was the mind frame. Like, that's it, man. I got other things to do. Like, I can't let this weigh me down. And so I got away, went up to Chicago, and I had a scholarship, and it was the first time living on my own, and I was finally able to drink the way that I always knew I really wanted to drink, which meant I woke up and I was thinking about drinking, and it only took one semester for me to basically stop going to class and start drinking every day, and I remember making some college friends that could party pretty hard, but then, on occasion, they'd wake up the next day and be like, man, I'm toast. I can't do it again, right? And I was always ready to do it again. Always ready to do it again. Even if after that first initial wake up, it's like, oh man, I feel kind of crummy. Maybe I should take it easy today. Maybe that's by 11 a.m. I wake up or something. By 4, 5, 6 p.m. without fail, I'm thinking, man, what are we doing? Where's the party at? And so, no surprise, I drank that scholarship away and was asked to leave the school. That's what happens when you drink the way that we want to drink. And once again, that thing popped up in my head. Oh man, this is dumb. I don't even want to be here. I don't care about this. I'm a musician. I'm an artist. I need to be out creating great art for the world. Again, or just these crazy thoughts that our brain comes up with to rationalize a very real consequence in our lives, And so I come back to Nashville, tail between my legs, and enroll at MTSU. When I'd left, the business that I'd started with my buddy to him to run, and when I got back, it was flourishing. Guys, this guy had a nose for business, and that was all he did. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm very impressed, but also kind of scared, because everybody had a pistol now, and there was an AK leaned up in the corner of the house that people came through, the trap house that my friend was running. And I vaguely sensed I wasn't being too smart, right? We have those thoughts where it's like, whoa, this is kind of crazy, but I guess this is my life now. So crank up that Tupac. That's my go-to. I won't deny it. I'm a straight rider. It's like, is this life? And that's it. And so I'm rolling around, with a heater in the car, this is normal life, right? And this is after graduating high school with honors and woo, and all this stuff, right? And just thinking, again, our alcoholic life seems like our only normal one. And it's usually not hey, I woke up and decided to make horrific life decisions out of nowhere. It's a slow degradation, taking steps towards all of a sudden I'm putting myself in situations that literally could ruin the next 20 plus years of my life. Right? Many of us get there where it's like, man, now if we're lucky enough to get here and look back on it man, I can't believe that I'm on the outside, right? And here with you guys living happy, productive lives. What a miracle considering all the poor decisions that we made, right? So anyway, my buddy does get in a lot of trouble and does get locked up, and I should have seen that again as an opportunity to say, whoa, I kind of sensed that things were getting out of hand. I'm going to take a step back, but I couldn't. I was living the lifestyle. Right? That was my lifestyle, was people come by, you help them out, I get paged, you help them out, whatever. Yep, that's part of Shannon's story. She talks about her pager getting taken away, and that was a way of life for those of you that missed out on it. You missed a lot, okay? They were great. You would have loved it. You didn't miss anything. And so, I should have dipped out. Instead, I just kept running around living that life. And I had a valet job, which allowed me to basically sleep until 3 p.m. and then, get ready and go to work at 4 p.m., get off at 11 p.m., and then drink and do everything else that I could ever find up until, 4, 5, 6, 7 a.m. And that was my life. Sleep the day away and then get up, and then it's bada bing, bada boom. I have immense respect for the traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous, so I don't get into a ton of the outside issues that I did, but I did more than my fair share, right? But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because when I drink, I have an allergy and an obsession of the mind with alcohol that can only be described as alcoholism. That's why I'm here at this AA meeting, right? That's the only thing that we need to be here is a desire to stop drinking because of the illness of alcoholism, right? So everybody in here earned your seat if you've got that, right? None of the other stuff that you might hear about in AA meetings matters. Do you want to stop drinking? Great, we can help. So I should have stepped away from that gig, but I didn't, and my life was slowly falling apart because I lived under the delusion that if I had just had my way, that I could wrest satisfaction out of life, right? And what that looked like to me was if I could just get enough substances and high-end bourbon and time to just drink and party the way that I wanted to, that I'd finally be happy. That itch that I'd been trying to scratch for my entire life, I'd finally feel relief from that and be yeah, I did it. I blew it out. I did it. I'm good. And wouldn't you know, I got all that stuff, got time, was living in a party house, and got to drink and do everything to the nth degree, and I was more miserable than when I started out, And that was not the first, but part of, I think, our alcoholic self-centeredness, where, we think we know what's going to make us happy. I think that, man, if I just get the shoes or the car or the girl or the house or the whatever, that I'll finally be happy. If I get the booze or the whatever, that I'll finally be happy. And it's like, no, man, I have no idea what's going to make me happy. And to me, that's part of this larger tie-in of like, yeah, the only way to truly get happy is to seek and do God's will, right? Whatever that looks like for y'all. And I have no idea what this God thing is, but like a deeper and more vibrant surrender to this thing is the only path to like true happiness that I've found. And the crazy thing is that when I do that, all that other stuff just seems to find its way to me. All the stuff that I thought was the sole end, I was confusing the ends with the means, So anyway, long story short, I was pretty miserable. I was drinking every day. I could count on one hand, the number of times that I didn't drink over that 5-year period. Again, that's not a requirement for being an alcoholic either, right? Sometimes we're binge drinkers, sometimes we're daily drinkers, whatever. If you drink and you can't stop, you might be alcoholic. I just happened to drink every single day, and I remember the days I didn't drink because it was like, am I going to really get through this day without drinking? Is this happening? It was so unnatural to not drink by the, even if I didn't start till midnight or 1 a.m. after thinking, I'm going to hold out tonight, I'm not going to drink, and then, And then our brain rationalizes a reason to take that drink, and we're off, And so I was getting, I've always been a pretty optimistic, happy dude, and I was getting to that jumping off place, guys and gals, right? Where it's like, hey, if this is what life's all about, I might just check out, right? And I wasn't overtly suicidal, but I was making a lot of really wild decisions. And I remember telling my parents the worst thing you could ever tell your parents, which is I just don't feel like I'm supposed to live that long. As a parent now, telling my parents, I feel like I'm supposed to just, burn out, live hard and burn out. And man, what a sad thing as a parent to hear, I'm sure. And what a horrible place to be, as a drunk. And that's exactly where I got to, right? So around about that time, I was taking care of business, still had that job, had this other job. My business, was not self-funded. It operated on Front Street, as people say. It's on Front Street, right? Meaning that everything that I provided to the world was not actually mine. It belonged to some other bigger, meaner, scarier person. And wouldn't you know it, I wasn't really cut out for that life. Who knew, right? I was too nice. I made poor decisions. I was too trusting, And so I ended up getting robbed, beaten up, shot at, all the things that you would assume would happen to a dude who's not, who's living that life and really isn't cut out for it. And so that was me, right? And so I'd been beaten up a few times. I'd been robbed multiple times. And my connection had told me if anything like this happens again, there's going to be serious consequences. And so I was kind of, shaken by that, but had to trudge on because my friends needed me. And so I just kept doing the thing, and I woke up one morning and I discovered that once again, stupid me had been robbed, and all of the product and money that I'd had was gone. It was gone, and I didn't know what to do, and I felt like the world was falling in on me. I was shortness of breath. I remember frantically pacing back and forth. What am I going to do? How am I going to get out of this? And I did the thing that all the badass drug dealers do. Called my parents. Called my parents. And I was 22 at this point, and I was like, guys, this is going to hit you pretty hard, but I think I might have a problem with alcohol. And they're like, yeah, you definitely do. That's what we've been trying to tell you for a few years. You definitely have a problem. Everybody else knows it. You're not hiding it from anybody. We all know. You have a problem. We live under that delusion that oh, nobody really knows how bad it is or how much I drink, And so I was like, cool, so what do we do? And can I go somewhere? And they're like, well, yeah, we've been waiting for a call like this. Let's get you into treatment. And that was on a Friday, and I couldn't get into treatment until Monday. And so I had that weekend to pack up my stuff, get it out of the house, and I went to do all that. And Yeah, because as I was in treatment, our lease was going to expire, yada, yada, yada. So I'm packing up my stuff, get my T-shirts, get my socks. Boom, all the money and product that I'd hidden from myself in a blackout, right? Because I was so paranoid of being robbed that I would just hide the stuff, I guess. And I was taking so many outside issues on top of the drinking that I would live in blackout for like 4 to 6 hours every night. It was like pretty common, right? It's scary to think how common it was that I'd have to have people describe my life back to me the next day, and that was almost every day, right? Like, and then you slam the door and you spit at us. No, I would never do that. Like, yes, you did. You're a huge a-hole. Like, no, not me. And that was life, right? And so I had hidden all this stuff. I found it, and the gears start turning. Like, oh, how do I back out of this? I've made a horrible mistake. I don't need to go to rehab for sure. And thankfully, the wheels were in motion, and there was that small part of me that knew that, like, any change is good. Got to have a change. Just try something new, anything. And so I begrudgingly packed up the rest of my stuff. I had one wild last night of partying where I had my arms around people, my friends, some of whom I would literally never see again in my life, and telling them, you guys are the only friends I've got. We'll be boys forever, Like we have these fake bonds with people while we're drinking that we think are real relationships, and they're not. That's not a real relationship. That's a mutual using of one another, right? For booze and a feeling of security or whatever. But it wasn't real. And so then I went to treatment. And the first week there, I was a little angry. I was angry because I felt like I'd been cheated into it. Maybe it could have been this God thing. I wasn't sure yet, but I definitely didn't feel like I deserved to be there because it felt like punishment or something, right? And in reality, it was the best decision that I'd ever made in my entire life. Right. While I was there, a couple gentlemen came through. Barkley, with his sponsor, Scott Lee, came through, and we're doing what we do, carrying the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And that was 17 years ago, right, that they came through. I had no idea at the time. Apparently, Barkley's life was on fire, and all the sponsees had died. Yeah, they had all fled his life. And it was perfect though, man. And so, some people have different sponsors throughout the length of their sobriety. So far, Barkley's my guy. He's just always been my guy. And we've been through a lot. Both of our lives have changed in tremendous ways since we met. And I love long-term relationships because they really enrich our lives in ways that we don't understand until we're living it. Where it's like, oh man, we've been through so much together. Yeah, man. I love you. I love you. 1, 2. So anyway, I knew what everybody told me in treatment, which was don't go back to the places you used to hang out or hang out with the people that you used to hang out with, right? Because that's bad news. But what they didn't know about me was that I was super good at pool and darts. And I could not give up all this institutional knowledge I had of billiards and throwing darts. I was just too good to give it up. So literally the next night, I was at the beer cellar on 2nd Avenue with my friends, just like throwing darts and like shooting pool and like kind of edgy, but like getting through it. Like, I guess this is the new normal, and miserable. And I didn't drink that night, and I didn't drink any of those nights, but my guard was down, right? Because I was trying to get some vicarious pleasure out of those old places. And I can tell you now, at sober for a while, I don't have fun watching my friends get drunk. That's not fun for me, right? That's just not a good time. But so, at that point, I thought this is where I'm supposed to be, holding it down, doing what we've always done, just not drinking. And again, I didn't take a drink, but during one of those nights, it was a friend's birthday party, he suggested I take a shot of beer, which to me seemed like an absurd idea because we all knew that that's not how I drink. A shot of beer. I still remember being very offended by that like recommendation. Like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I will drink you under the table, but I'm not drinking. So gladly not drinking. I'm sober now. You're so lucky. But they were in the parking lot, and this is the one outside issue I'll get into because it is relevant to my story. And they were doing whippets, nitrous oxide, right? Yeah, and I was like, oh, and just like, yeah, I see some nods, see some people like, yeah, that's just good. And just like Jim, adding the whiskey to the milk, I vaguely sensed I was not being too smart, right? I got in the back seat of that car. I knew what they were doing. But I was like, well, surely it won't hurt me on I'm sober, on a full stop. So I do one. It lasts 60 seconds. If you're familiar with it, it's just a wah, 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 hits you in the head. And then after 30 to 60 seconds, it wears off. Your lips go blue for a while, and then they're not blue anymore. And then I came to, and again, I was like, oh man, was that a relapse? That surely a relapse would last more than 45 seconds. That wasn't a relapse, right? And I don't need to tell Barkley about it because he won't understand, unbeknownst to me, that he had extensive knowledge of all types of outside stuff. And so I didn't tell him. I didn't tell anybody from my home group. I didn't tell anybody, right? I was just sitting on this thing, and it was like the telltale heart, It was like I knew it was in there, and it was beating, and I was like, this makes me feel weird because I'd started to grow just a little bit of a conscience. We were doing step work, right? And I talking to Barkley, I was like, hey man, got a home group, getting involved with Tiki Paw, did a whip it, chairing some meetings. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, can you believe they're letting me chair meetings, man? It's crazy, Look at this guy, And he's like, no, the thing before that, back it up. I was like, what, the whip it? He's like, yeah, tell me more about that. I was like, well, it's nitrous oxide, it only lasts. I was like, you don't think that's a relapse, do you? I mean, don't be, And I clearly remember he said, I can't tell you what to do, but I have trust that you'll do the right thing. I was like, this mother, how do you know? Clearly I don't know what the right thing is, or else I wouldn't have sat on it, for 3 weeks hiding it. But yeah, man, so that's the story of how my sobriety date got bumped back 90 days, the longest 90 days of my life, right? But it was imperative to me, and especially now looking back, like if I'm going to be honest with the guys that I sponsor, and just, I can't afford to have any cracks in my foundation. My foundation has to be firm because the certain trials and low spots of life will come, and when they hit, my brain that's constantly trying to kill me for some reason, is going to convince me that, you did that thing, you're not really that sober anyway, right? I mean, what's the big deal, May as well do it. And thankfully I had people in my life that would hold me accountable. And so that was within, again, my first 90 days, and that first year was rough for me. It was rough because I didn't get plugged in. I went to some meetings and I was like, oh, hey, what's up? And I saw people laugh. I was like, oh, cool, y'all got jokes. You don't need me. It seems like you guys are good. You don't need another guy just floating around or whatever. And then I was up in New York with some friends, like doing fun, cool music stuff. And my AA birthday is right around my regular birthday. And I told my 2 friends I was up there with who I'd partied with and grew up with, I was like, hey, it's my birthday, my real birthday. I'm thinking about having a beer, And friend A was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I think I might have a beer. And he's like, dude, you should be embarrassed. And I was like, oh, well then, I'm just kidding. And then friend B was like, no, dude, you were serious and you should be ashamed of yourself. I was like, damn, as they drink beer, and those are the friends that I get to keep in my life today. I'm still great friends with both those dudes. They were in my wedding. 99% of the people that I was running with back in the day would have been like, yeah, wow, a whole year, dude. Absolutely. You deserve a beer. You did it, right? And so it's imperative that we surround ourselves with people that have our best interest at heart, And again, for me, when I was drinking, I was surrounded by people that wanted to drink the way I did, or that I hung out with to make myself feel better or whatever, and that's what we do. So, yeah, so look out for the friends that you've got, and we look out for each other, because it really is. We will have weak moments when we're not sure if we should take a drink or not, and hopefully we got somebody in our life that will tell us, man, you should be embarrassed, that's not the deal. And so that was how that first year wrapped up. I didn't have many friends. I had found kind of a home group, and then thankfully they were putting in a bid for Tiki Paw, and they were like, "Hey man, you want to come? We're doing this thing." I was like, "Oh, I mean, I guess if y'all need me, I could, I could come by." And they're like, "Yeah, whatever. We need everybody, And so I show up, and we put in a bid for Tiki Paw in like 2006 or something, and we are awarded the conference, and we bring it back, and we host Tiki Paw, and it is literally a life-changing experience for me. For those of you that don't know, Tiki Paw is the Tennessee Conference of Young People in Alcoholics Anonymous. It is hosted by young people, but put on for all of AA. There are fantastic panels and speaker meetings just like this. It might get a little rowdier at times, but the dances are fire, and it's just a great time, whether you're young or not. Like, it doesn't matter. It's a great AA event. And again, it's the deal with me going and saying yes, I'll help out is that I was put on a committee with people doing God's work. Right at the end of the day, that's what all this is about. At our home groups, which is very important that we have a home group, and that I attend the business meetings. That we're just there saying, yeah, what can we do? The only reason we're here at this conference this weekend is to carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? If I'm doing something in my home group at a committee level, whatever, that's not carrying the message of AA, then it's kind of like, what are we doing here? Well, I'm wasting my time, because that's not what any of that other stuff doesn't matter. I'm here to help carry the message of AA, right? And so serving on this host committee gave me that opportunity. And wouldn't you know it, that by just saying, yeah, I'll help, whatever, and sitting in rooms with people for an hour, and then going and having coffee later, that like this fellowship started to grow up around me. The people that I had been looking for, the people with crazy senses of humor, like us, right, with sick senses of humor, like whatever, some of my fondest memories of those times were like sitting at Cafe Coco at 2 or 3 a.m., and just getting sober and being crazy. And we were all a little crazy, right? And that's okay, because we're all crazy in early recovery, and it's a tough time. I mean, literally looking back on it, early recovery sucks. If you're going through it right now, just keep going and know that like almost none of us like the leveling of our pride and self-searching, which the process requires, right? As the book tells us, like nobody likes it. It's hard, but does that mean we're going to go back to doing what we did before? I know where that goes. I will die. Like that's where that will take us, right? So we hosted this conference. It was great. I met a girl. She's great. We dated, and then we hosted another conference. We had Cirky Paw, and that was fantastic. And then I think she was like, hey, we should bid for Icky Paw. And so we started putting together this bid committee for the International Conference of Young People in Alcoholics Anonymous. And we did that for 7 years, right? We bid for Icky Paw, meaning we threw events, and we, just like, well, not exactly like this, but we'd throw events and whatever all year long, and then we'd go to the conference like this and be like, hey, let us have it next year. And for 7 years, they were like, no, not you. Okay, we'll come back next year, and so the whole next year we'd go and we'd bid, and that was the deal. And you know what? I didn't take a drink that entire time, right? That's the miraculous thing, right? I was sponsoring people, I was doing committee work, and that's kind of my, this is my big endorsement, whatever, for service, that like I have not found a reason to get out of the middle of the boat yet, right? In the time that I've been sober, because outside of that first year, when I was not in the middle of the boat, outside of that, I've been sitting in here with you guys just saying, cool, what do we do next? Now what? What's next up for us? What does God have in store? And again, man, all the things that I thought were important just kind of materialize in our lives, right? And I have these lifelong friends, and I have a beautiful wife, that I met in the program, and we're both pretty jazzed up about this AA thing, which is good because we both commit a lot of time to it, and that works for us. And so, that was really all those years, right? And currently I'm on the advisory council for Icky Paw. My wife is as well. And that went from a 5-year commitment to now with COVID, 2 additional years, so 7 years. So, looking back on that, that'll be like a 14-year chunk of my life where, hey, I didn't have to drink. I wasn't ever thirsty, and what a miracle that is for a drunk like me, who just loves drinking, as I mentioned. And I haven't considered taking a drink in years, and it's a fantastic way to live, right? About 3 years into that, my older sister Cindy, we partied. We grew up partying. She was from my dad's first marriage, and he split with her mom when she was very young, and she was like 15 years older than I am. And so by the time I was drinking age, we'd get together and we'd drink and we'd party, and that was like we would set it on fire, And then after I was sober for just a couple years, she called my dad and was like, "Hey, I think I'm ready to get sober too." And my dad was like, "Fantastic, that's great, let's do it." And so my dad didn't know who to ask or who to talk to, so he asked me if I would help. And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And so he and I went up to Chicago, where my sister was living on a commune, a hippie farm, living the dream out there. And it was just a trippy experience. We called the commune, and the head cult leader, I don't know, the head of the commune was like, to my dad, like, "You're not welcome here, just send the boy," And that was me. Like, they knew that I was there, and I was like, "All right." And my dad was like, "Are you okay with that?" And I was like, "Yeah, what, send in the boy, Dad, my book says I can go anywhere, if I have the right reasons. So, and I wanted to check this scene out, And I get in there, and it was like a scene from Fear and Loathing. People are clearly tripping, and I can't tell if they're super messed up or just messing with me, because it's all about us, right? One dude will only talk like a pirate, and I'm like, "All right, cool, bro. Where's my sister?" And I find her, and she's like doing laundry. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing laundry." And I was like, "Cool." She's like, "Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna go." And I was like, "Girl, we just, flew all the way up here. You're coming back with us." Kicking and screaming. She doesn't want to go. We finally, I get her outside. We get her in the car. The only way we get her on a plane is with a handle of vodka. We get her down here to Nashville. And much like myself, there was a gap there. We got her down on like a Friday, and she could go in on Monday to the ranch. And over the course of that weekend, the geographical cure had worked, and she didn't need to go to treatment anymore, And my dad is significantly older than I am, and my mom called and was like, I'm concerned your dad's going to stroke out. He's red as a beet. His blood pressure's through the roof, which sounds a lot like my mom, I think, And is there anything you can do? And I was like, well, I don't know. Sometimes they say don't go if you're family members, but I think we go when we're called. And so I called my fantastic girlfriend at the time, and she and I went over to my house and we wrote it out. I was able to tell my mom, "Take Dad, go to the movies, we'll take care of this." And it took us a few hours, and her finally finishing everything that was in that bottle before we were like, "If you want more, you got to get in this car." And we got her in the car. We did stop by the liquor store, and then we made it out to treatment, And she didn't want to get out of the car. She didn't want to be there. She got in there. She blew like a .33, which is where she lived, And the reason she didn't want to ever stop drinking is because she would go into serious DTs, And that's where we're all headed, That's, if you haven't been there yet, let's hope we don't have to get there. But so that's where she was at. They got her detoxed, and over the course of the next 30 days, the miracle takes place. She was the treatment superstar, had the answers out of the book, knew what was talking the talk, right? And most importantly, she was having these conversations with my dad about why he wasn't there for her as a daughter, those deep-seated things that, again, I think are just as valid a reason to drink as anything else, right? If you're predisposed like we are, and you got anything going on in life, it makes for a great reason to drink. And so they were able to talk through all that stuff. And my dad felt like he did some good, like he was actually able to have meaningful discussions that they had literally never had. So anyway, she gets out after 30 days and moves into a halfway house. She's doing great. And then, oops, she has a slip. That's okay. Get up, brush yourself off. They let her stay in that halfway house. 3 weeks later, oops, she has another slip. Now you got to move out. And now she's kicking around Nashville and South Nashville, and just, kind of halfway house and staying with other people. My dad's still doing everything that he can do to help her, right, to help his daughter. And it's not working. She just keeps drinking. And I see her at a barbecue, at a birthday party, and I remember her telling me, Phillip, I see what AA has done in your life, and I just don't think that it can work like this for me, And that could be that constitutionally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living, which demands rigorous honesty. Maybe that's what that looks like. I don't know. But I know that over the course of the next year, she kept drinking and kicked it up a notch, and for a moment we thought maybe she was pregnant because her stomach began to get distended, and what it was her body shutting down, and so her liver shut down and she died, and like that's what's waiting for us, like that's what's waiting outside for like every single one of us in here. Is an alcoholic death. It's either we drink ourselves to death or we wrap ourselves around a telephone pole. If we're lucky, we don't take out some innocent family with us, right? Like this is a terminal thing that we've got. And I think it's fantastic that we can get together and have a great time and celebrate life. But just underneath is deadly earnestness, just as the book tells us that like this is a terminal thing that none of us are going to survive on our own, And so that was obviously a huge bummer, is the understatement of the year. And we get to the funeral home, and, my mom sees the people, and there's a line out the funeral home door, and my mom's like, did Cindy know this many people? And I was like, no, Mom, this is Alcoholics Anonymous. This is who we are. This is what we do. We show up for each other when we have an opportunity to, So, like, if you have an opportunity to be there you stay sober a little while, you're going to lose friends, and you're going to be in a position to help friends in ways that you never thought would be possible. We've been there with friends, as they're dirt on the casket moments, right, when they're burying loved ones, and we get to be there for them in those moments. And experience that with them and walk through that with them, and in turn we have people that are there for us in those moments, And I didn't have those kinds of friends before, I didn't have access to that. So that's what AA does. That's what AA is, right? It's this design for living that works for us, and it works through the certain trials and low spots, right? Like that's the deal, man. Like my life today is pretty great, all on most fronts, right? But I know that, like, for me to appreciate the highs, I got to have the lows. That's what gives the richness to life, is like the ups and the downs, the peaks and the valleys, right? And without one, if it was just all cloud nine all the time, pink cloud, like, great, yeah, this is great, I'm ready for a change. Well, don't worry. Life will hit you, and that's what's going to happen. Things change. And, so I'm super grateful that I have an opportunity to be there for you guys, and that you guys have opportunities to be there for us, for me, for my wife, for my kids. God knows they're going to need it. Those little hellions. That's right. Man, they were at Monty's house a couple weeks ago setting it off, and it's just like, man, please save like a whole row for my two children, because they are high energy, wound up like springs. But man, what a blessing to see them grow up, I've got some cool professional stuff going on in life, right? Where like I had an opportunity to build a career, and then once I was like burdened by the knowledge of what I really wanted to do with my life, which happened later in life for me by like 35, and I finally knew once you're burdened by that, it's like, cool, then I got to go do that, and I've had an opportunity to kind of let go of the stuff and chase that, and and I feel like, just like with AA, what seems at first a flimsy hand or a flimsy reed is the hand of God, and when we're moving in a certain direction, if it's within God's will, whatever that looks like, the universe is gonna help us in that endeavor, And it's funny to me, that stuff is just kind of happening in my life, and it's fantastic. What's also been happening is that I got a bunch of new sponsees. I always sponsor people, but like, I don't think that I can reverse psychology God, right? By like, look at all the good stuff I'm doing, God, now just give me what I want. I don't think it works that way. But again, man, as Scott says, there's no wrong reason to do the right thing, right? And so this is the right thing, is to sponsor people to do the work of AA, to take care of God's kids. And when I do that, God takes care of me, no questions asked. Everything that I need is provided. It's an incredible, miraculous thing that like I didn't have access to. I didn't have access to that power. Whatever this power is, and what I love about AA is that, like, cool, you think God's X, Y, or Z? That's great. If that works for you, that's great. I'm still figuring it out for myself. I've got some... what is certain to me is that it is. Right? There is a definite something. There's a definite power underlying the totality of things, as the book says, where it's like, man, I don't know what this thing is, but it is real. It is. And that's one of life's huge questions, I think. Is like, well, is it real or is it not real? It's like, well, I was about to die, and then I started praying to this thing and doing some simple things, and all of a sudden, life is taking on new meaning. You know, all the promises can come true if I just do my part, you know, just keep my side of the street clean. And again, man, it's such a cool, miraculous way to live that I always looked at certain philosophies or religions and thought, man, that's really cool. Wish I had what that guy has. You know, wish I, just as the literature says, wish I could believe as he believes. But I didn't think that I had access to it. And would you know that it's thanks to having this, again, terminal illness that is trying to kill me literally every day, thanks to finding a solution to that, I get access to whatever this thing is that will absolutely change my life. In every area of my life, right? Where now, again, the most important thing for me to do is to find these new and exciting ways to surrender. You know, that's it. That's what life is about today, is like, oh man, I'm struggling in my finances, or I'm struggling in this. Oh, cool, I'm keeping God out of that. That's the deal. How do I invite God into these different areas of my life, new and exciting ways to surrender? And so that's what I'm always on the hunt for, man. And what that means to me is I get to end up being happy, joyous, and free most of the time, you know? So again, you know, I'm super grateful to the Roundup. Been coming to this thing for a while. And, you know, and what a cool experience to be up here and to be spending time with everybody in the room tonight. So thanks for having me. I love you. We'll see you next time. That was tough. Yeah, you want to